Hello, my name's John Cranner. I'm a self-employed structural engineer based in Abergavenny. This is my second video on the subject of cracking and building movements. And this video is going to cover the reading list that you've all got to inwardly digest. It's like being back at school, or I had a reading list I had to buy all the books for when I went to university. There should be in the description a link to the file to get the reading list that I've got down, which is it's one A4 page of all the different documents, which starts off with a list of the BRE, Building Research Establishment documents that I started off using when I was first looking at cracks in building in 1990, and then it also talks about other books that the subject is covered by. And one thing to kind of talk about is that the act of investigating cracks, recording them, describing them, reporting about them, and then talking about what's caused the cracking and how to repair the cause of the cracking, and also then to repair the brickwork itself, is a combination of both science and art. So you get a feeling of what certain elements of brickwork or wall movement is called, because there's so many different types, and you can almost, if you're well experienced like I am, I've been doing it for 30 years now, get a feel for it. But it's mainly a science as well. So all these books and documents I've got really give the background to the science behind it. And talking about it being a science, I was thinking earlier today when I was, going to conjure up what I was going to talk about, is that in all the documents I've got, that there aren't that many people that go back to the basics of what is causing cracks in basic masonry. Okay, you get cracks in concrete as well, but we're mainly talking about brickwork, blockwork, and stonework. But the essence of what causes the cracking is that the tensile resistance of a brick or a block or a stone is an order of magnitude lower than that of its compressive strength. So basically what you're seeing when you see a crack in a building, be it in the mortar work or through the masonry itself, is that the wall is being pulled apart rather than it being squashed together. You can get, theoretically, compressive stress failure and shear stress failure, which I think I've come across once or twice, mainly where you get large concentrations of loads on a wall where say a steel beam comes in, and the load from it isn't properly spread out by a padstone. So I think I've seen that once or twice, but it's pretty rare. So mostly the wall is going into tension. So as I said, I'm going to be talking a bit about the Building Research Establishment documents, and I've got here the various digests and good building guides that I'm going to be discussing, which will be done as a I'll be doing it as a Microsoft PowerPoint demonstration talk over, because it's technically easier for me to do. But the main one is that thing to discuss is that when I first got involved in looking at cracks, I'd say about 1990, when I was working for consultants in Cardiff, was that the only document we had to look at was this building the Digest 251 called the Assessment of Damage in Low-Rise Buildings, which was initially published in 1981 and got revised. The other one I got was updated in 1995, so that was 3 years after I started being self-employed. We had, but that was the only document that had to guide us in how to record and assess cracking in the building. So it's very much a big learning process. There are now, so I've got if I can get all these books, etc., that have come out since. So I'll be going through this. But I just wanted to also talk briefly about the importance of BRE documents themselves, because I've got two lever arch files of BRE documents. So, for instance, this one is just on the BRE Digest. This is this is not on cracking building movement. This is just on ones that I've got for all my construction advice, really. And then this other lever arch file has got defect action sheets, information papers, and good building guides, or GBG. So what I'm wanting to get across is the importance of the BRE documents, in that if there is something in there, okay, that talks about cracking and building movement, etc., and we talk about not only structural engineers, but I think this does cover, I think, both architects and residential building surveyors. But it's just something in that document that is there to give them advice on building construction and possible defects in them. And they do a report, and basically they give some advice that is either contrary or doesn't take into account the advice given it, and they are found to be potentially negligent. Then if it was to come in court, there is a high likelihood that they could be cross-examined and say, well, did you not give thought to what was said in this BRE document, BRE Digest 251 on the assessment of damage in low-rise buildings, in how you should record and describe the nature of the cracking. And if that surveyor says, no, I had no idea about it at all, and I do remember Steve Boniface in one of his videos saying, well, ignorance is no defense in the eyes of the law. So just saying I wasn't aware of it is not a good enough excuse not to be able to use that expertise, because they're easily obtainable documents. Okay, you have to pay for them, but they are something that all surveyors, structural engineers and architects should be aware of. So what I'll do now is I'll just break off from this face-to-face video and morph into the PowerPoint presentation video. So I'll go through all the documents that I refer to on my reading list, discussing them one by one. This is a copy of the reading list that I have got a link to in the description for this video. So you should be able to download that. It's in the Google Drive, and I checked with my cleaner this morning that I got the right access to it, because at first I had it only for me, but now I've got public access to it. So you can see the first set of documents we got there are a load of Building Research Establishment BRE Digests and one good repair guide. You can see, by the way, that I got a number of these documents and books, as well as the digests that are in red, and you can see at the bottom, I think, yes. So those are the ones that are highly recommended. But if you want to, as it were, make a good stab at the thing, or know everything that you hopefully can do about cracking and movement in buildings, then I would recommend that you get all those documents. So if we go on to the first BRE document, this is quite an old one now, that says revised in 1993. If I look at my one, it was originally produced in 1980, about low-rise buildings on shrinkable clay soils. Funnily enough, because that's the title of it. And I will be doing a separate video all about analysing and assessing buildings that have been affected by shrinkable clay soil. Where I am in Abergavenny, we haven't got any shrinkable clay soil, because you can see on the next slide, there's part of the document, it shows the bands of highly shrinkable clay soils. Now, there will be clay soils in other parts of the country, but due to the geological nature of how the UK was sort of formed, you've got from a line that you can see there, that if you go to the top, you've got Hull, and then Rugby, and then Bath and Exeter. So you've got a line running down there, and everything to the southeast has these bands of highly shrinkable clay. Now, that's not to mean that you won't ever get highly shrinkable clay in other parts of the country, but you're unlikely to. And it is this clay which is very susceptible to shrinkage when you've got things like trees, bushes, whatever, that's going to extract the water from it, or a very dry summer that will extract it as well. And if your foundations aren't at sufficient depth, then they're going to be affected by that. So that's why you get a lot of damage occurring to buildings because of that, founded on highly shrinkable clay. The next document is, for me, the most important one. Again, I will be doing a separate talk video on, which will be the next one actually, recognizing fractal patterns, because it's the essence. It tells you how to record the cracking in buildings. And interestingly enough, I was at an Society for the Protection of Ancient Buildings course about surveying traditional buildings last year, and the surveyor that was running it, I asked him, because he's a very knowledgeable chap, he's an RICS surveyor, and I asked him whether when he carried out his surveys, he recorded the cracking buildings in accordance with this digest, and he said he didn't, which I found very odd. But as I say, I'll go through that in detail on my next video, so I won't talk about it too much here because I'm repeating myself. So the next two digests, if I move over to them, cover how to monitor and measure cracking building. Now, I will be doing a video on how to and when to monitor. That's currently video number 9. So this one, as you can see, that's the way I do it actually. You can see in the photo there is to put some studs on the wall and then use a vernier gauge that's got a digital readout. And then you can measure down to, or at least 0.1 of a millimeter. When you had a visual vernier gauge, now the digital vernier gauge I got measures down to 0.01 of the millimeter. You don't need that accuracy, but 0.1 of the millimeter is fine. And then that's the second one. So second one, heaped out to plumb. So you can see there that the person in the photo is doing a level survey with a very high tech, using the long tube with water in it to see, and then he's got I think he's got like a scale or whatever they call it. I've forgotten the name now, to measure the difference in heights in the brick coursing as it goes around the building. And then this is one I think I've got down as a must-have document, if I can find the building track. Yeah, that's in red, so 361. Interesting, that cracking that you can see there in the photo, that's something that, so I've had this document dated, where is it, dated 1991. Yeah, so quite a while that it's been out. And that cracking, I thought, well, how does that occur? Because it's due to the cavity ties being too close to the corner. And actually last year, early last year, I came across this form of cracking for the first time. So I'll be discussing those cracks in the video entitled Non-Foundation Cracking. Well, that's nothing at all to do with the foundation movement. This next BRE document is one about cracks caused by foundation movement. That's actually quite a short one. It's useful for some references, but it really does try to cover a lot of information in only 4 sides of A4. So it's not very extensive in its depth, but it provides the right pointers to how you approach foundation movement cracking. And then we go on to the booklets. So this is, again, fairly old, 1991 BRE document. It's written by 3 engineers, so it is quite a heavy technical-based book. But it does, if I move over. Right, so again, this is an interesting combination of maps that are in it, in the booklet that are on the 3rd page, and one above the other. Well, I've got them side by side here. So again, you can see the map of the highly shrinkable clays on the left-hand side, and then on the right-hand side here, there is the distribution of underpinning in the UK, obviously at that date, which is 1991. And not coincidentally, it reflects exactly the areas of the UK where you have highly shrinkable clay. Where I am in South Wales, with the 1% there, we've got no shrinkable clay. We've got lots of projects that buildings that have been affected by mining subsidence. And my first ever project I got involved with when I was working for consultants in Cardiff was to do with mining subsidence. But I haven't been involved in anything of that nature since. And any foundation movement has generally been caused by leaking drains, or drains that don't actually go anywhere to any gully and just soak the water at the base of the wall. This is again another BRE document that is produced for the householder, actually. So you either go from a very technical book to, and I wouldn't say it's light in technical information, but it is specifically for the house owner. So again, that gives very good background. And as it's a BRE document, it's still available. Probably not as a paper document, but maybe as a PDF file. So this is subsidence damage. This is dated, that's 2007, again, a BRE document. So you can see quite clearly the cracking above the doorway there. That is due to foundation movement. I would say that you're going to get cracking on the inside. It's a stepped crack that becomes large very quickly, actually, and you can see that it's caused by, I would think, most likely that tree on the right-hand side. But I'll be talking in my lecture on foundation movement cracking, which is video number 5, that's patterns of subsidence cracking, how you can work out where the movement is occurring, but by the line of the crack. So I'll be going into detail of that in that video. This is another book that is written by a RICS surveyor, Malcolm Holland. This is in its 2nd edition, as you can clearly see in the top there. Again, it's written by an RICS surveyor, Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors, and it's a good general book about cracking in buildings. I say it good guardingly because the production isn't quite of the same value, the same standard as the previous book we were looking at, cracking by Peter Dickinson. And it all depends on how much money that the publisher, so Wiley Blackwell, was willing to spend and throw at it. They are fairly, I would say, amateurish diagrams thrown in there. not many, if hardly any, photos of actual cracks in building. And I actually have corresponded with Malcolm and said, oh, there are some sections of your cracking diagnosis that I just don't agree with at all. There's one he calls wall shortening, which is to do with buckling of the wall, solid brick walls, by the window openings, and movement of the roof and movement of bressumas and movement out of the walls that I think it's a problem in search of a solution, if anything. But again, it's in print, so I think it's about £30. And as I say, it covers all the different foundation cracking and non-foundation cracking in buildings. So it's a good book. This second one is what came out just after I became self-employed in 1992. This is a second edition of Subsidence of Low-Rise Buildings. And there was a kind of a roadshow that the person who chaired all this, because it was written by quite a few people, and Brian Clancy, structural engineer, he brought it all together and talked about the reason for it, because there was nothing before that covered subsidence and mainly the approach to subsidence, and how the insurance industry wasn't really set up properly to have a good technical analysis of it. And what it did bring in is that once you have carried out all the correction of the cause of the subsidence, underpinning, whatever, removing leaking drains, whatever, done the repairs to the superstructure, the cracked brickwork, then the engineer can produce a certificate of structural adequacy, and that's become an industry norm. And this is it's almost like a third edition, but it is actually a complete rewrite, and it has a different chairman to it. I can't remember the person's name, but this is much snappier titles. That's called Subsidence. JCW Patch is a person who I think he was the person who chaired it. But yeah, and it's a really good book. That's probably even better than the previous one. So I hope you've been able to stay with me till the end of this recording. I hope you enjoyed it and you find it useful. If you'd like to give it a like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to it. Because as I said, I've got 8 other, no, 9, actually 9 other videos that we're going to go through. The list is ever expanding. And the next video will be about the BRE Digest 251 and how you record and report on the movement and cracking. So thanks very much, and I'll see you next time.